Hello everyone and welcome to Midlife Crisis, the show where I talk about every major DC crossover event in chronological order. The Blackest Night is over, and with the end of the Blackest Night comes the brightest day. No grayest evening in between. Just straight to Brightest Day. The Brightest Day is a 25-issue, year-long maxi series released between 2010 and 2011 that follows the events of Blackest Night and serves as an epilogue exploring the things that happened at the end of that series, including all of the heroes that were resurrected and the mysterious White Lantern that had landed in a crater in the middle of a nearby town. Brightest Day wasn't limited to just a series, it was an entire publishing initiative where every single title being released at the time had the banner Brightest Day for it. It was very similar to what we have today, like Dawn of DC and Rebirth. The actual Brightest Day series is very self-contained. There are no tie-ins to this series, which is great for me because it means I only have to focus on one thing. The series is written by Jeff Johns and Peter J. Tomasi, the two writers who had previously written both Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, with a whole ton of artists: Scott Clark, Fernando Pasarin, Ivan Reyes, Patrick Gleason, Joe Prado, Adi NCF, Christian Alamy, Marlo Alquiza, Rebecca Butchman, John Dell, Sandra Hope, Mark Irwin, Tom Nguyen, Cam Smith, Dexter Vines, Eau Claire Albert, David Beatty, Keith Champagne, Vicente Cifuentes, Julio Ferreira, Mick Gray, Rob Hunter, Norm Rapmond, Andy Owens, Prentice Rollins, and Art Thibbett. So without any further delay, let's just get straight into Brightest Day with Issue 0. The story begins, it's a brand new day, the birds are chirping, and unfortunately one of them falls from the tree, smashes its head on a gravestone, and dies. That's right, immediately we're beginning with something incredibly depressing as this cute bird dies, and Boston Brand, formerly known as Dead Man, but now I guess he's known as Alive Man, is there looking at the bird, and he's like, that looks good. Just kidding, he's actually there, and the bird reminds him that death is persistent, and he's really there to just smash his gravestone apart with a sledgehammer. I don't know if he can get in trouble for this or not. I mean, technically, he probably owns this gravestone, right? But I don't think you're allowed to just destroy a gravestone without telling anybody, even if it's your own. Especially because they're going to assume it's not him that did it, because right now he's supposed to be dead, so they'll assume that somebody vandalized his gravestone or something. It's going to cause all sorts of problems. He picks up the bird and is like, alright, dinner time. And then the bird begins to glow in his hands, and it comes back to life. He's like, damn. Well, whatever, I'll put you back in the tree then. He puts the bird back in its bird nest, and then the white glow appears around him, and he hears a voice that says, Boston Brand of Earth, help me. And then he gets enveloped in this massive bowl of white light and disappears. And throughout the rest of this book, Boston Brand will be teleported around to the different people that have been resurrected. So we begin in Amnesty Bay, where Mera is butt naked in bed, barely covered by the sheets, and her costume and her trident are just on the floor, so it's presumed that after Blackest Night, her and Aquaman came back to the room and had, like, makeup sex or something. Reunion sex. Which isn't a bad thing to do if you just had a night of facing zombies. And each other. She realizes that Arthur's missing. He left early in the morning because he didn't want to wake her, and he's just standing out in front of the ocean, basically asking himself all the questions of, why did I come back and not everybody else? Why didn't Garth come back? Why didn't Tula come back? And I'm asking the same questions because I like Garth, and it's sad that he's dead. But Tula, on the other hand, she was dead for years anyway, so I'm fine with her just staying dead. Mera says that the day is beautiful and that they shouldn't waste it, so she decides to go and have a bit of a swim in the ocean. She takes off her clothes, goes swimming, and tells Arthur to come in with her, and Arthur's like, I don't know. I have this bad feeling, Mera, and he sees his reflection in the ocean, and it looks like the Black Lantern version of himself. And then we also see that Boston Brand is there, and he's like, Aquaman! And then he just disappears again. I like that Arthur is wearing his costume pants. It's almost like he doesn't have any other clothes outside of his costume. I don't think I've ever seen Arthur wear normal clothes before. Boston gets transported to Iron Heights Penitentiary, where Eobard Thawne is being held. I think there's supposed to be 2 Eobard Thawnes in present day now, because there was the one in Iron Heights Penitentiary, and then also the one that got resurrected. I don't know if Jeff Johns actually plans on talking about that. For now, Barry Allen shows up in order to visit Digger Harkness, who had also recently been resurrected, and he's like, I'm sorry about what happened to your son, and then for some reason, Digger just doesn't give a shit, which feels a little out of character. He cared a lot about his son, so it just doesn't feel right that he's just like, it doesn't matter, it's all good, it's just business. You know, you're in the business, you die like that. You kill your own son. It's normal. He's probably just putting up a front. Barry's there to tell him to not even try breaking out of prison because he'll be here to put him back. And Boomerang explains that he could easily think about the fact that he came back instead of Elongated Man or his son. But he's not going to think about that stuff because he has 2 choices. Either spend the rest of his life thinking about that shit or die. And he'd rather live his life. So he basically tells the Flash, I am going to escape from prison at some point, and there's nothing you can do to stop me, and I will continue to live my life as a criminal. Meanwhile, Carter and Shiera Hall are going through all of these memorabilia items, learning about the memories that they've had together, because they've finally been reunited after years. Boston shows up in the middle of them making out. They're about to have sex, and he's just like, oh, whoa, why'd the white light have to bring me into this situation? Like, come on. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of science guys looking for something in the snowy mountains. Carter can't stop seeing all the ghosts of themselves from the past, and he's just thinking about the day that he's gonna lose Shiera again. He's like, it's gonna happen one day. Half-Set is going to find us and tear us apart. When is that going to happen? It's like, don't you see, darling? The curse, in a strange way, is a blessing. It should be forcing us to live, not hide. Yes, I can remember each time I lost you like it was yesterday. It's like you said to me once, the past is for us to use to our advantage. History can be an incredibly strong weapon if you know how to listen to it. I'm not going to stop loving you because there's a chance of losing you, Carter. I'm tired of remembering our deaths, Carter. It's time to remember our life. You're right. And God help Half-Set if he tries to, and before Carter can even finish his sentence, the star sapphire crystal that was given to him flies out of a nearby bag into the claw of Horus. And they're like, whoa, what's that? Oh, it's the star sapphire stone that they gave me, and it's in the claw of Horus. It seems to be pointing us somewhere, so let's follow it. And as they fly through the sky, they get this weird feeling, and we see that the scientists from earlier have found the bodies of their past selves. We then cut to Maxwell Lord, who had also been resurrected, and he is drawing plasma from his body because he's done so many shit things over the years that the moment anybody finds out he's alive, they're going to put him away for life, or possibly even execute him. And so what he's going to try and do is he's going to try and erase everybody of all the memories of himself so that he can be a free man. But he gets nosebleeds every time he uses his powers, so he needs to try and be careful and draw as much blood out of his body while he does it so that he doesn't die from a massive nosebleed. So he activates his powers, blood starts shooting out of his eyes, his nose, his ears, everything, every orifice. It's incredibly disgusting. He falls backwards into a tub of ice that he has set up behind him, and he passes out. And Boston Brand shows up and is like, oh crap, Maxwell Lord just did something real crazy. I wonder what he's up to. Dude's always got a plan. Then we end up on Mars, where John Johns has returned to Mars after his resurrection. He's lasering the ground all around him, and he finds a piece of rock with some moisture on it. This is proof to Johns that he can bring Mars back to life because there is water. And Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner show up looking for him. They find him. Guy has brought him a present, which is a whole bunch of chocos, which is lovely, a Guy. And John explains to them what his plan is, that he wants to rejuvenate Mars after finding the water and bring his race back to life. But he's not planning on abandoning Earth. He will be living on both Mars and Earth, and that he won't be their only Martian for long. Meanwhile, on Oa, Jade came back, so now Soranik is doing all sorts of tests on her to test her powers, and Jade is like, you're only doing this to keep me away from Kyle, right? Because you two are in a relationship. And Soranik is like, yes, actually, that is what I'm doing. And Jade is like, you don't have to worry about me being with Kyle. If I wanted to be with Kyle, I would be with him, but I've seen his eyes, and they don't look at me the same way anymore. He only has eyes for you. It's just like, everybody's moved on. There's nothing here left for me. And Carl just randomly shows up out of nowhere. I guess he was listening in on their conversation. It's like, there's nothing you need to worry about, Jade. There are people that still care about you. You should go and see your father and your brother and fix your relationship with them. This would unfortunately lead to a storyline where Alan Scott turns evil and Jade and her brother fuse together and become evil as well. So not a great family reunion, or at least a start off to it. We then cut to the funeral of Jason Rush's girlfriend Jen, who was killed by Black Lantern Ronnie Raymond. Ronnie is late to the funeral because he's been busy reacquainting with life, his college life specifically. Ray Palmer is here having a conversation with Professor Stein, and Ronnie shows up, and they tell him to go and talk to Jason and become acquainted with him because he needs to make up with Jason. So he goes over to Jason, and things do not go well between them because Jason blames Ronnie for what happened because he was forced to watch his girlfriend get turned into salt and die. And he's like, you don't even remember her name, do you? Like, what's her name? Tell me her name. And he punches Ronnie in the face, and in doing so, accidentally fuses with Ronnie, and they become Firestorm. So this is them discovering that they are now Firestorm. Which isn't a great situation, because they both absolutely hate each other. We then cut to Karnak, where Amon Tomaz has arrived home after being resurrected, and his goal is to bring Black Adam and Isis back to life so that he can have a family again. So he grabs their statues and flies away with them. I don't think this storyline in particular ever actually gets resolved because I know Amon during Brightest Day joins the Titans, becomes a member of this team led by Deathstroke, and that's all he does. I don't know anything about him bringing Black Adam back to life. Meanwhile, Hawk is currently going after arms dealers because he spent so much time being dead that he's ready to get back into crime fighting the way that he knows, which is just rushing in and taking down as many dudes as possible, even though Dove wants to do things differently, in a more hopeful way. He just jumps through the front of a van, starts kicking the shit out of everybody, grabs one of their guns, shoots a guy in the leg, headbutts another dude, and then blasts their truck and blows it up. And that's when Dove arrives and is like, Hank, you gotta stop with all this rage stuff. First of all, I want to figure out where this white light power I got came from. But also, we can do this in a better way. We don't need to do it like this. And Hawk is like, no, I want to do it like this. This was only the first example. I'm gonna keep doing this. And then Boston ends up in Star City, which had been destroyed during the Cry for Justice miniseries. And when he gets there, he gets this massive flash of all these characters and this mysterious voice saying, "Help them." He's just like, "Ah!" And the white light around him begins to affect Star City, and these trees start growing out of the ground, and a massive forest in the shape of a star grows in the place of Star City, which would lead to one of the dumbest Green Arrow storylines of all time. The time that Star City became a mythical forest. Boston wants answers from the ring. He's like, "What the hell? What are you? Who's talking to me? What do you want? Why us? You don't want to spill? Fine, get off of me." Boston Brand of Earth. What? What were we brought back to do? Help me live. And the white light continues to erupt from Boston. And then we see the White Lantern in the middle of the crater as all of these civilians are surrounding it. Like, "Oh, what the hell is that? What is this?" The white light starts spewing out of it. And they're like, "What the heck?" And then Sinestro shows up and is like, "Ah, there you are." Because he wants the power of the White Lantern for himself after the taste that he got during Blackest Night. Hal Jordan, Carol Ferris, and Sinestro all arrive, and immediately the authorities there pull their guns out on Sinestro because they're like, "Oh, Sinestro's here, we gotta take him down, take him down." Sinestro creates a construct of a car and is about to hit this guy, but Hal stops him. Sinestro is like, "I know your petty humans can't hurt me, but they're still disrespecting me, so you should make them control themselves." Anyway, what the hell is this White Lantern? Well, apparently it is the white entity that Necron had summoned that has now evolved into a White Lantern and has ended up on Earth. And Hal is like, "You didn't just bring us here because you needed our help. You brought us here because you couldn't pick up the White Lantern." Sinestro's like, "Can you?" So Hal tries to pick up the White Lantern and he can't, and they compare it to the Sword in the Stone. I wonder if this was originally supposed to be a Thor reference, but then they took it out because they're like, no Marvel references, and reference Sword in the Stone instead. If not, it's a missed opportunity then to reference Mjolnir instead. Because I always enjoy it when Marvel and DC reference each other. So Hal was like, if this White Lantern is the sword, where's King Arthur? Meanwhile, Boston Brand has found himself waking up on a ship, and he discovers that this is the worst ship ever because there are these pirates on it, and they've kidnapped a whole bunch of children to do things that I'm not allowed to talk about in this video. Let's just say these men are monsters, and Boston wants to stop them, but for some reason, the White Ring won't let him, and that's when Aquaman and Mera show up. Aquaman throws his trident at this dude as they all shoot at him. The trident goes straight into the guy's shoulder because they're here to save all these children, which is why Boston wasn't allowed to do anything. And Mera's like, anyone who hurts children will feel my rage. She brings up a whole bunch of water and starts attacking these guys with big water serpents. And then more guys show up and start shooting them. And Mera is like, hey, Arthur, use your powers against them. Summon some friends. And he summons a massive kraken, only it's dead. It is a zombie. And it starts attacking the ships and starts killing everyone. And Mera is like, you gotta stop it. It's killing all these people. He's like, I'm trying, but I can't stop it. Then this guy tries to shoot Aquaman and Mera with his harpoon gun. And then a undead shark jumps out of the water and just chomps this guy, kills him. It's pretty great. Arthur's controlling dead sea animals like his Black Lantern counterpart did, which raises a lot of questions. The answers probably aren't good. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, we see this guy who is gutting a fish. This is David Hyde, aka the Black Manta, former enemy of Aquaman. It seems like he gave up his life of villainy after Aquaman died. When he sees on the news that Aquaman has come back, and the people in his shop are like, hey, isn't that great? Aquaman's back. And David Hyde just slits this guy's throat, jumps over the counter, attacks this woman and kills her, and then grabs this other guy and he's like, help me! And we see their bodies on the ground. So he's just killed all these people as soon as he found out that Aquaman was back. He's like, Aquaman's back, I'm handing in my resignation. Your death. Meanwhile, Ronnie Raymond and Jason Rush have been locked inside a testing facility by Martin Stein. They're trying to get out, but they can't. And they try to separate from one another, but they can't do that either. Jason doesn't want to be with Ronnie, he just wants to be with his girlfriend, and Ronnie's like, come on, man, she's dead, just move on. And Jason's like, no, I can't, because you came back, and Aquaman came back, why can't my girlfriend come back? And he's like, because it's complicated, I don't think we'll be able to bring her back, man. And then Martin Stein is like, I've got some bad news for you two. The bad news is probably that they are stuck together forever. Meanwhile, on Mars, John has grabbed a massive chunk of, like, Antarctica or something, and brought it there. He just chucks it down on Mars and starts melting the ice. And then he sees that a plant has begun growing on Mars, so his theory that he can bring Mars back to life is coming true. And then he gets attacked by what seems to be the mind powers of his Black Lantern self, because we see his Black Lantern self within him, and he sees visions of him strangling this old man named Erdil that he doesn't remember doing. And he also sees in the visions a mysterious woman. He's like, I need answers about these visions, so I need to go and find this woman. Meanwhile, Hawkman and Hawkgirl find those dudes that had stolen the bodies of their past selves. They start fighting these guys, because the guys start shooting at them. And they're like, we could have done this the easy way. I guess we're doing it the hard way. So they start fighting them with their maces, just smashing these guys, trying to see what's in this bag that they've stolen. And they open up the bag to see that it's their bodies. And they're like, whoa, we thought these bodies had been destroyed alongside all of the other Black Lanterns. I guess not. This one guy throws a flash grenade, and while Hawkman and Hawkgirl are blinded, the dude shoots both of the pilots to tie up all loose ends, and then jumps out holding the bag with the bodies in it. Hawkman and Hawkgirl manage to save a couple of guys and exit the plane before it explodes, and they're like, alright, we need to find out why they stole these bodies and who even wants them in the first place. And we see that the person that wanted these bodies, and he already has them, is Half-Set, the lifelong enemy of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, who is always destined to kill them in every life. We return to David Hyde, who sets his house on fire and then just walks straight into the ocean, submerging himself before re-emerging as Black Manta, and he's just like, Aquaman! I just find it so funny that he walked out into the ocean and then jumped back out again. He was probably thinking to himself just how cool he looked in this moment. So for some reason, Martin Stein told Jason and Ronnie that he had some bad news, but then he proceeds to not tell them what the bad news actually is, which is pretty weird. Instead, he sends Ray Palmer to them, who is wearing this suit of armor. I'm 100% sure this armor is what inspired his look in the Arrowverse. The reason he's wearing this armor is because he plans on going inside of Firestorm to do something that he just won't tell them. I don't know why they won't tell them anything. I guess they think it's best for them not to know. But if that's what you think, then don't tell them that you have bad news. So Ray goes inside and he finds the Firestorm Matrix within, and he goes into the Matrix further, just delving into it, where he finds this weird glob of black darkness or something going on with the Matrix. And while this is happening, Ronnie is hearing a weird voice in his head that's mocking him, and he thinks that it's Jason that's mocking him, but it's not. Ronnie starts freaking out, and then his face begins exploding with energy and ripping apart, and Martin tries to go to the door to let them out, and the door explodes, blasting him. So, situation really bad right now. Meanwhile, at the house of a regular family, the mother of the family sees that Martian Manhunter has been brought back to life. She puts her ham in the oven, her family are all playing Guitar Hero or Rock Band together, and she suddenly just starts killing her family. She just kills the husband and then the kids, beating them up with the Rock Band guitar, and we discover that this woman is actually a Black Lantern in disguise. I'm assuming it's a Black Lantern, wearing the skin of this woman. This is horrifying, just ripping the skin off of her. Disgusting. So far, this book, I think, is darker than Blackest Night was. Clearly, whatever this thing is, it wants revenge on John Johns. Meanwhile, John goes to the gravestone of Sol Erdel, the guy that he saw in his hallucinations, and he finds a picture and discovers that the woman that he saw is his daughter, so he decides to go and visit her. Meanwhile, Hawkman and Hawkgirl are brought to the command post that these guys come from, and when they get there, they see this shrine that's made for them, and they realize it was Half-Set's doing, and Carter just gets so pissed off that he destroys the entire shrine. He's like, I've had enough of this guy. This guy keeps trying to kill us every time we reunite. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go find him and we're gonna kill him. Meanwhile, John visits the daughter of Erdel. She is much older now, because it turns out Erdel is the guy that had brought John to Earth in the first place. So he disguises himself as Erdel and offers his daughter a chance to relive those memories, because John wants to find out what happened that night. And we discover that Erdel and his daughter had summoned this horrific monster one night, which tried to kill them and then made its escape. And so Erdel continued doing his experiments, and he eventually succeeded in summoning another creature that looked similar to that one, and this one is John Johns. And a explosion happens, an accident, and it kills Erdel, but John manages to save his daughter and get her to safety, and from that moment forward, John became a superhero. John then puts this woman to bed, kisses her goodnight as her father. It's a very lovely moment of just John giving her a chance to spend one more night with her father. Honestly, if John did become a Lantern, he would definitely be a Star Sapphire, because he's just full of love. Meanwhile, Boston Brand tries to talk to Aquaman and Mera. He's like, hey guys, wait up, please, I need to talk to you. But then the White Ring teleports him away again. He's like, no, not again. He teleports to a mysterious crevice. He's almost about to fall to his death, and he's like, come on, Ring, you're supposed to fly, fly. He almost hits the ground, but he hovers there, and then the Ring starts telling him to fight. And he's like, fight? Fight what? Fight who? And he turns around, and the frickin' Anti-Monitor is there, just right behind him, casually standing there, just like, hey man, it's me, I'm gonna kill you. And I'm just like, what is going on with this story? Right now, things are all over the place. There's no real structure to this. There's like 9 different stories going on at once. Now the frickin' Anti-Monitor is showing up out of nowhere. I guess after Blackest Night, he decided that he was just gonna travel back to the Antimatter universe and just chill. So Boston Brand finds himself face to face with the Anti-Monitor, and he's just like, Ring, are you telling me to fight this guy? Because this is a universe eater. Why do you want me to fight the Anti-Monitor? And the Ring forces Boston to summon White Lantern constructs of all of the heroes that have been resurrected, and they all fly towards Anti-Monitor and start bombarding him with light energy. It's like, are you trying to tell me something? All of us, the ones that you brought back, are we back to stop the Anti-Monitor? And the voice says to him, no! And the Anti-Monitor is just like, oh, you've pissed me off now! And Boston tries to attack him again. He's like, come on, Ring, shoot at him, go! But it won't do anything, and the Anti-Monitor shoots energy at him. Boston manages to get out of the way. He's like, what the hell did you bring me here for? I'm not used to trying to stay alive. Or is that the point? If it is, you made it okay, I'll be careful. Next time I leap into the air, I'll use a safety net, okay? And the voice says, okay, and creates a safety net to catch him. And then, I guess Boston just teleports away, and the Anti-Monitor is just like, yeah, run, bitch. And then we cut to Pittsburgh, a nearby hospital, where Ronnie Raymond has woken up because the explosion was caused by him and Jason it split them apart so they're no longer Firestorm, and landed them in the hospital. And we see that Jason is visited by his father. His father wants him to come home and continue studying. He doesn't want him to be hanging around with Martin Stein anymore. And Jason is like, no, I want to figure out what's going on. I want to figure out how to be Firestorm again, if I can. And his dad is like, no, you're coming home with me. And Jason's like, I didn't tell you what to do when Mom died. And his dad's like, that's a low blow, son. And he leaves. He's like, have it your way. And Jason's just left there. Ronnie is having a conversation with Martin Stein, where Stein wants Ronnie to make up with Jason and talk to him about what happened. And Ronnie's just like, I don't care about any of this. Like, Jason thinks that I killed his girlfriend. I didn't kill his girlfriend. It wasn't me. This is my life, Professor. I got another chance. I'm not going to waste one more minute of it feeling guilty because someone else did it. And as he says this, he sees that Jason's door is open and Jason heard him and he's got tears in his eyes. And he's like, I'm gone. And he leaves the hospital. And while he's outside, he's like, Ronnie, man, you should have told them. And we see flashes of Black Lantern Firestorm killing Jen, so it's assumed that Ronnie remembers everything and that he was lying about it. And then Jason's father drives by him and is like, hey, you Raymond, you stay away from my son, you hear me? Stay the hell away. Meanwhile, Aquaman and Mera are outside the North Atlantic. Aquaman uses his powers to summon a zombie killer whale. There's this funny shot of the killer whale attacking Aquaman. It's supposed to be dramatic, but this just looks kind of funny, where it's just like, oh, and Aquaman's just like, ah. He's fighting with the whale. He's trying to figure out why he's summoning only dead creatures, and Mera's like, maybe you could go to the Justice League for help, or Atlantis. And he's like, no, I'm not going back to Atlantis, because every time I go back there, they make me king, and then they try to hunt me down for some reason. They just constantly betray me over and over again. And Mera's like, yeah, and I did too. I left you for a while, but I'm no longer gonna leave your side. And he's like, Mera, maybe my people can't help. And even if they could, the underwater dimension they inhabit is sealed off from ours. Then there's no going home for you either. I am home. And they embrace one another, and Mera has a look of worry on her face. So, oh, what's that about? Meanwhile, Martian Manhunter heads to a morgue where he finds the bodies of the family that was killed by that creature earlier. They've been skinned. It's disgusting. He heads to an animal shelter where he finds the family's dog, because the dog did not die. And he sifts through the dog's memories. Look at this dog. He looks so happy. Sifts through this dog's memories to see these traumatic experiences that this dog has had of this monster ripping the flesh off of his family. It's so disgusting. No, it's not possible. And so John takes the dog. He's like, we need to go back to Colorado. And I know an old woman who will enjoy your company, boy. So it's like he's going to drop the dog off to go and live with Erdl's daughter. And he's also going to wipe these horrible memories from the dog's mind. And then continue on his search for wherever this thing is. Meanwhile, there is a plane out in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, and at the same time, the White Lantern starts to react, and then the plane gets struck by lightning and destroyed. And then we cut to the Peruvian jungle where Hawkman and Hawkgirl are still searching for Halfset, blasting through all of his goons, while Halfset has their bodies and is using them to open up some kind of gate somewhere. He opens the gate up, he heads through it, and then Hawkman arrives and kills the scientist that was there with him, and they find that it wasn't just those two bodies that Halfset had stolen. He had stolen all of the bodies of all of their past lives and used them to create some kind of gate. I don't know what this is about, but I'm sure we'll discover going forward. Things are getting really weird. It's gonna be some kind of gate to like the Hawkman, Hawkgirl dimension or something. The Claw of Horus is pointing Carter to this portal, so he assumes that Halfset has gone through. But Shiera comes up with the idea of, hey, maybe we should destroy the portal, and that might trap Halfset in there, and then we don't have to worry about him anymore. And Carter is like, I don't want to do that and then be looking behind our backs for the rest of our lives. I just want to go in there, kill him, and get it over with. And that's what I'm gonna do. And Shiera's like, well, if that's what you want to do, Carter, I'm not gonna stop you. I'll just be by your side. And something I've noticed that this story has in common with the Aquaman one is that the women involved in the story, their role is to just be by the side of the guy. So for Aquaman, it's Mera, and for Shiera, it's Carter. I hope that that's not what their role is purely reduced to. I hope that they get to do some cool things as well. At least Shiera has been able to beat up a bunch of guys alongside Carter. Meanwhile, Mera hasn't really done anything that isn't just being by Aquaman's side. We'll have to see. For now, Carter and Shiera travel through the portal and end up in a Land of the Lost looking place. Like, what the hell is this? We're definitely not in Kansas anymore. Meanwhile, Boston Brand is teleported into the room of Dove, and his first instinct is to smell her for some reason, which is really creepy. He's like, oh, she smells like lilacs. And then she wakes up and, understandably, punches him in the face. She's like, who the hell are you? And he's like, I'm Boston Brand. Wait, you're dead, man? Who are you? I'm Dove. And she transforms into a Dove costume. And they just completely move on from the fact that Boston Brand was being real weird. He explains to her that he didn't come here by choice, he was teleported here, and that the White Ring has been teleporting him around to all sorts of people. And then Hawk just comes smashing through the wall because his Dove Raider went off. He was like, I sensed that you put your costume on. What the hell is this guy doing in your bedroom at 3 in the morning? So Boston has to explain everything to Hawk and Dove, how the forest emerged because of him, how the ring has been telling him to, quote-unquote, save them, whatever that means. And Hawk is like, well, if that ring was able to bring forth that forest, I have another job for it. Meanwhile, in New Mexico, we are introduced to characters Jackson Hyde, and this girl's name is just Maria. She doesn't have a last name as far as I know. And Jackson Hyde is an adaptation of Calder from Young Justice, Aqualad. This is his official debut in the comics. They created the character for Young Justice and then immediately put him in the comics. But because he didn't exist in the comics before, they had to completely change his origin. So he has basically nothing to do with that character except for sharing a name and also eventually becoming Aqualad. They are here to go swimming, and she's like, oh, I'll show you how to swim, because he doesn't know how to swim, which is funny because he's going to become Aqualad. She throws his shirt at him, like, I'm a good teacher, whoa! And she's about to fall, and he grabs her and saves her. Like, what happened here? I was here yesterday. You were here? With who? There was water. There was a lot of water. And we discovered that the water has all been dried out. There's a couple of dead fish. And these fish are going to become Black Lanterns. And then get their revenge against anyone who has eaten them. Meanwhile, in the Bermuda Triangle, a bunch of lifeguards find some dead bodies in the middle of the ocean. And they see that the bodies have been severely dehydrated. Like, Captain, something's in the water. They see a glowing lightning. And what look like Atlanteans start bursting out of the water with some kind of version of, it's like Mera. It's like a twin or something. She looks exactly like her, but she's got purple hair. It's kind of like, she kind of looks like the Wonder Woman villain Cersei. And this woman is like, kill them! Kill them all! Then we cut to Pittsburgh University, where Ronnie Raymond is partying with his college friends. He's passed out on a bed, and he hears the same voice that's been talking to him this entire time. He turns around to see that it is Jason's girlfriend Jen in her salt form from when he assaulted her. She's like, do you remember my name yet? And she grabs him by the throat. It's like, say it! And he's like, let go! Gehenna! And then she bursts into a cloud of salt. And his friend comes in, he's like, hey Raymond, keeps calling your name. Whoa, what's with all the salt, dude? And we see Jason sleeping while studying, and it looks like he's been using his firestorm abilities unknowingly. So it's assumed that he created this copy of Jen to mess with Ronnie without realizing. Because deep down, that's what he wanted to do. That's what I'm assuming this means. Hawk and Dove bring Boston to the gravestone of Don Hall, Hawk's brother, Hank's brother, because he wants Boston to bring Don to life, because the Black Lantern ring couldn't do it, so Boston's gonna have to do it with the white ring. Arthur and Mera head to an oil rig because they're trying to take them down because these pollute the ocean, all that jazz. And while they're doing this, a water spear almost hits Arthur. It's like, whoa, that looks like one of your spears. And Mera's like, Arthur, we need to leave right now. And a big, huge typhoon of water just hits Arthur, sending him flying out of the water and onto the oil rig. And then somebody's like, King of Atlantis. And the people that we saw before that are clearly of the same species as Mera are all standing in front of Arthur. We will learn that this woman's name is Siren. Meanwhile, Hawk tells Boston to bring his brother back. And he's like, if anybody deserves a second chance, it's him. He deserves it more than you. Boston's like, fine. He tries to use the ring to bring Don back to life. The light starts erupting from Don's grave, and the voice is like, Boston, what are you doing? Arthur fights against this siren woman, and she fights back using her water weapons, slashing Arthur's body, and he gets grabbed by this dude called Quana. He's like, hold him, Quana, so I can behead him. She goes to attack Arthur. Mera stops her and knows who she is. So they are well acquainted with each other, it seems. She tries to get Arthur to leave, and Siren is like, you haven't told him, have you? She's like, come on! And as the oil rig explodes, they dive into the ocean. Carter and Sierra wonder where they've ended up, and they realize that this isn't going to be over until Half-Set is dealt with, but they need to just figure out what's going on, because there's this weird feeling that they both have within each other. They felt it last time that they kissed. This time when they kiss, it's like the Black Lantern side of them still lives, and the Black Lanterns are emerging from within them, because they're slowly turning into Black Lanterns, it seems. It's real gross. They've got black goo coming out of their mouth when they kiss. And then they suddenly get attacked by a bunch of these lion furries, and so they fight back against these guys, and then these hawk or bird furry people show up and start attacking the lion furry guys, and Hawkman is like, oh, I guess we're in some kind of war? So yeah, I guess they're in like the furry war or something. This was definitely somebody's furry awakening. Sierra almost gets kidnapped by one of these hawk people, but she fights back against it. Carter tries to fight one of them, but another one comes up from behind him and attacks him, and then he falls into a rock with a bunch of hawk people. They all just smash straight into this rock, while Sierra is dropped into a cage full of more furry people. So the story is taking a really weird turn. Meanwhile, Boston fails to bring back Don Hall. The ring says no. And it's not just the ring that said no, Don also said no. Boston states that he had a conversation with him, and Don is at peace, doesn't want to come back, and Hank is like, that's bullshit. And Boston's like, no, I'm serious. He didn't want to come back, he's at peace. And Dove is like, yeah, but there is somebody who isn't at peace that could come back. My sister. And we see the statue of Holly Granger, Dove's sister. And so Boston tries to bring Holly back to life, which brings up a topic that hasn't been discussed yet between Dawn and Hank, which is Holly Granger, because Black Lantern Hank is the one who killed her, and yet they haven't talked about that yet, which is funny, because it's funny that that is a very important conversation that's going on between Jason Rush and Ronnie Raymond, and yet neither of these characters have talked about it. Carter wakes up to find all of the Hawk people around him have been killed and eaten by this white lion furry dude. It's like, about time you woke up. Who are you? Where the hell am I? Welcome to Hawk World, human. Hope you last longer than your mate. So it seems like Shiera and Carter have ended up in some kind of Hawk World, which is a play on words of an actual book that DC released called Hawk World that starred Hawkman and Hawkwoman. Arthur tries to get answers from Mera about who those people were that were trying to kill him, and Mera explains, she's like, oh, wanted the fairy tale, I knew this was how it was going to end eventually, and he's like, what are you talking about? Arthur, I was sent here to kill you, which is an insane plot twist, and we'll find out what Mera is talking about. The disgusting creature that Martian Manhunter has been tracking, that's been going around murdering people, finds a couple and seems to be arguing with itself, like it has two separate personalities controlling it. One of them wants to hide and become one with humanity because it feels alone, while the other wants to kill as many people as possible to get the attention of John. So he just kills, or this thing just kills these two people, ripping this guy's head off, stabbing a tentacle into this woman's head, and then preparing to go and find more people to kill and hoping that John finds these bodies as well. Meanwhile, Jean has gone to Erdel's laboratory, which has become covered in foliage, and when he gets there, he touches some of it and it begins to die, which is more hints that the Black Lantern is still somewhere within him, possibly. And he's kind of thrown off like this. He's like, oh, everything I touch within my vicinity is dying. That's a little alarming. Boston continues to try to use the White Lantern ring to bring Holly back to life, and at the same time, Dove tells him that the ring might be telling him to embrace life again, and he's like, it's been so long, I don't even remember life at all. He's like, nothing? Not even the time that you were an aerialist or any of that stuff? And then the ring says that he loves cheeseburgers, and Hank is like, how does that have anything to do with anything? And then the White Lantern ring goes off, and Black Lantern Holly comes out of her grave and attacks Boston, and is like, you shouldn't have disturbed me. And he's like, no, get off. And he creates a White Lantern construct of Don Hall, which fights back against Holly, destroying Holly. But apparently this wasn't actually Holly rising from the grave again. This was just a hallucination created by the White Ring as a lesson for Boston to be like, don't try to do this. Otherwise, this will happen for real. Hank really starts losing it because he starts yelling at this ring, telling it to tell them what to do, what it's talking about, and the ring says to eat a cheeseburger. And he's like, what? And then Boston's stomach starts growling. And he's like, you hungry, genius? Boston, have you eaten since you've been back? Actually, beyond being led around by the ring, I haven't done much of anything. Meanwhile, Jason Rush is at university where he is approached by this lovely girl named Kelly who wants to study with Jason and clearly wants to spend time with him, but he doesn't really get the signal. He thinks that she's literally just wants to study with him. He's like, oh, the test isn't until 2 weeks from now. And she's like, well, just let me know. I'm on Facebook. Like, send me a message, because Facebook came out like a year before this. So they go their separate ways, and then a voice within Jason starts talking to him and is like, hey, what's the atomic structure of bubblegum? And the girders nearby start turning into bubblegum in a construction site, and Jason's like, oh no, someone needs to help. Someone. Me. And he transforms into Firestorm, and meanwhile Ronnie is on his bed, and so he gets forced to become Firestorm, and he's drunk. So Jason suddenly feels like he has a hangover because he can feel Ronnie's hangover. They're bickering with each other, but they're gonna have to put that aside and save this guy who falls from a crane because it turned into bubblegum and Jason tells Ronnie to fly. Ronnie can't quite remember how to fly, but he tries anyway. He flies up. He misses the guy and is like, oh, dang. And Jason's like, dang, what are you talking about? Catch the dude. And he's like, oh, right. Okay. He flies in. He's like, I can't catch him in time. Maybe I should create a giant bowl of ice cream or something. Do you know what the properties of ice cream are? And Jason's just like, create an airbag. And Ronnie's like, all right, that sounds great. He creates an airbag to catch the guy. And as he goes over to him, Ronnie just vomits all over him. Presumably because of the hangover, but this is black goo, so it's probably a mix of the hangover and also he's got Black Lantern in him still or something. And that is when the mysterious voice starts talking to Ronnie, and then Jason reveals that he can hear the voice as well. And Jason's like, oh no, I think there's somebody else in here with us. Meanwhile, Arthur and Mera are also having an important discussion because Mera just revealed to Arthur that her goal, or she was sent here to kill him, and so she explains everything to him. It turns out her race that lives in another dimension, they didn't choose to live there, they were sent there by the Atlanteans. And that dimension happens to be the Bermuda Triangle itself, so nobody was able to escape. And they've spent ages trying to figure out a way to get out, and they've realized that they can get somebody out, but only one person, and that person was Mera, and Mera's goal was to get revenge on Atlantis for sealing them away by killing the king of Atlantis, and that king was Arthur. But when she met Arthur, she changed her mind because she fell in love with him, and she had a kid with him and everything. But then things kind of changed when Black Manta killed her son. She began to hate Arthur again, but eventually she was able to get through that hate once she realized that Black Manta did it more to hurt Arthur than to hurt her. But now her people are back and they're trying to kill Arthur, and they are led by her sister. That's who Siren is. Siren is Mera's sister. I swear, at this point, every single comic character has an evil sibling. Definitely the most overused trope. Martian Manhunter realizes that while he does kill foliage that is near him, luckily he does not kill live creatures, as a squirrel is able to sit on his shoulder, which is lovely. I don't want to see a squirrel die in this book, like how I saw a baby bird die at the beginning. He then heads to a place called the Still Zone, where he is keeping the mothership of the White Martians. He goes to check to make sure the White Martians are still there, just in case one of them is responsible for killing all these people. But they're all there, so it must be something else. And so he heads to Gotham, where he meets with Barbara Gordon in order to get her help on figuring out these murder cases. So she goes through the computer systems to see all these murder cases and says that these cases were so weird that they started blaming it on other things. So nobody actually knows the true culprit behind them, because they were all covered up. So Jean gets in contact with Titan's Tower and he asks them where Miss Martian is, because he needs someone with strong telepathic powers to help him find the culprit. And they tell John that she has gone to Australia, which is the third time I think Australia has been featured in a comic book that I've read, which is great, because obviously that's where I am. He heads to Australia, where he finds McGann's brutally injured, unconscious body. She does not look in a good state right now. She might even possibly be dead. Which would suck, because this character hasn't existed in the comics for very long. I think she was introduced around 2007, 2008. Boston and Dawn head to Big Belly Burger so that Boston can have a burger for the first time in a long time. He has it and he's like, oh, this is as amazing as I remember it being. And then they get into the conversation about the White Ring, where Dawn is like, do you think the White Ring brought you to me for a reason? Like, we're connected because I'm connected to this white light, even though I have no idea what it is. And you seem to be connected to this white light as well. You've been given a second chance. I've been given a second chance to do stuff. Like, there has to be a meaning behind this, right? And Boston's like, well, what about Hank? Like, what are your boyfriend? And Dawn's like, oh, he's not my boyfriend. We're just partners in crime. We were given powers by this mysterious force. His was war, mine was peace. And together we use that to protect each other and fight crime. And then Hank shows up and is like, now that you've had your burger, can we figure out what the whole secret behind this burger ordeal was to begin with? And that is when the light envelops them again. It's like, I hope you enjoyed your meal. And it teleports them to the White Lantern in New Mexico. Remember who else was in New Mexico? Jackson Hyde and his girlfriend Maria. Hank walks over to the White Lantern and tries to pick it up, but he can't. And then Boston goes over and he just straight up picks it up easy peasy. And that's when Jackson starts feeling real weird. And he's like, I feel like there's electricity surging through my arm. And Boston grabs the White Lantern, it starts shining. He's like, all right, Lantern, why did you bring us back? Boston Brand of Earth. You need to embrace life. And Boston Brand turns into a White Lantern. And Dawn is like, Boston! He's like, no, stay back, Dove. I need to know who you are. I am the entity, and I have watched over the world from the beginning of existence. But I am dying. A replacement must be chosen. Each one of you has returned to protect this world until the arrival of its new champion. And Hank turns into a White Lantern as well. It's like, Hank Hall of Earth. Yes? Tell me. Why did you bring me back? And the White Lantern begins communicating with the different resurrected characters and giving them things that they need to do. So we see Martian Manhunter talking to McGann, and he starts sifting through her brain to try and find this creature that's killing people. And while this happens, he turns into a White Lantern, and the White Lantern tells him that he needs to burn it. Burn it down, burn all of it. And it shows him just shooting his heat vision at trees and stuff. So don't know what this is about. We'll find out eventually. But after this, he realizes that Miss Martian is all healed. And she says that she thinks the murderer is another Martian. Which isn't that surprising to the reader because it looks a lot like a monstrous Martian. Ronnie and Jason go to Martin Stein for help with what's going on with them so they can finally get answers as to what Martin was talking about with the bad news. And he says that he knows the secret behind the third voice that is inside them. He says it has something to do with the Firestorm Matrix. It's the next step of the Firestorm Matrix. But before he can tell them what he's talking about, they turn into a White Lantern, and the Lantern tells them that they need to learn from each other so they can stop him. Don't let him destroy me. And we see a shot of Black Lantern Firestorm getting ready to destroy the White Lantern. And it tells them that they can't hold him in there forever. So it's been Black Lantern Firestorm that has been talking to them this entire time. We then cut to Hawkworld, where Carter is getting real mad at the guy that he's chilling with, this lion dude, and he's like, Hawkworld, that can't be real. He's like, yeah, it is real. It's owned by the Hawk people, and you attacked us, and so we took you away. And Carter's like, we only attacked you because you tried to eat us. Now, where is Shiera? The lion tells him that she's up there, and he's like, okay, well, that's where and then he turns into a White Lantern, and the White Lantern tells him, don't let them leave this world, stop the Queen. And they say that the White Lantern was foretold, and that he will bring an end to Hawkworld. Meanwhile, Shiera tries to resist the Hawk people, and she turns into a White Lantern, and the White Lantern tells her that if she needs to stop Half-Set from killing Carter, that seems to be her destiny. And then Half-Set appears in front of her. It's like, that little demonstration of power is quite interesting. The Queen will be very pleased. Your Queen? Who the hell is she? Meanwhile, Mera tells Arthur that they need to get him to safety, away from her sister, so that she can't kill him. And that is when Arthur turns into a White Lantern, and he is shown visions of Jackson, and is told to find Jackson before they do. And then he realizes that the entire ocean has been cleaned of oil, and all of the dead fish are alive again, thanks to the power of the White Lantern. And then we see the White Lantern talking to all of these other people, giving them their destinies. And we got one where it's like, oh, Captain Boomerang, throw the boomerang. And there's a shot of him throwing a boomerang at Dove, which is really silly. He's like, yeah, I guess it's in my name. I gotta throw that boomerang. Jenny Lynn Hayden, save your brother. Amon Tomaz, free Isis. Maxwell Lord, stop Magog from plunging the world into war. Eobard Thorn, you succeeded in bringing Barry out of the Speed Force. Congratulations. He's already completed his goal, apparently. And then Hanks is to stop the boomerang that Captain Boomerang threw. Which seems like the lowest stakes out of all of them. Is like, Captain Boomerang throws a boomerang. Hank, you gotta stop it. Like, that's not gonna be that hard, right? You just gotta make sure he knows where Boomerang is. The White Lantern states that they will need to help it if they want to truly live. And Boston's like, what do you mean by that? And the White Lantern says, the chosen one that is going to replace the entity needs to be found, because the entity is going to die, and they need a new person to replace it. And it's going to be Boston's job to find that person. So now that Boston knows what he needs to do, he asks the Ring how to do it. Who does he need to find? Take me there. While Hank isn't really keen on helping Boston find somebody because he believed the Ring brought him back to just fight crime, he doesn't really want to do his duty, which is to stop a boomerang from hitting Dove. He also, for some reason, won't tell her what the Ring told him. He's like, I have to stop you, I have to protect you, is what it told me. And Dove is like, how? And he just doesn't say. And they ask the Ring, and the Ring doesn't say either. It just says everybody needs a protector. I don't know why Hank doesn't just simply tell her, hey, Captain Boomerang is gonna throw a fucking boomerang at you one day and I need to stop it. It's not like the Ring told him that he couldn't tell her. Deadman teleports away, and as he does, Dove grabs onto him and teleports with him, leaving Hank behind. And he's just like, oh, well shit, I guess I'm by myself now. What the hell? Meanwhile, McGann decides to telepathically link with John to show him that it was a green Martian that attacked her because he won't believe her. And so he sees all of these memories of McGann fighting this green Martian, the Martian messing with McGann, discovering that she is a white Martian, and showing its hatred for her, and deciding that it was going to kill her because of that. Or at least torture her. It doesn't kill her, it just leaves her pretty in the same shape that we saw her when John arrived. And John can't believe what he sees. He's like, oh my god, there is another green Martian, and it sucks. It's evil. That's not great. I had a theory that this green Martian might actually be John's wife. That would be a crazy plot twist. Meanwhile, on Hawkworld, Carter follows this guy who reveals his name to be Tonra, the leader of the Lion Mane tribe, and he's gonna bring Carter to some cave to show him the history of Hawkworld, but while they're walking there, a body just falls from the sky and smashes into the ground, and Tonra says that these are the bodies of the people that are forced to work in the nth metal mines, and their bodies are just dumped once they become too weak to work. And the nth metal is what is used to make the maces and wings that the Hawk people have. Carter then sees two giant statues, one of a human man and one of a hawk person, and he's like, what the hell is this? And Tonra says that he will explain it in due time. He takes Carter to the cave and he explains the history of Hawkworld. He says that originally there were just Lion Mane people and Hawk people, but then humans arrived and started mingling with the Hawk people, and they discovered the nth metal, and the humans wanted to use the nth metal, but the Hawk people decided that they wanted the nth metal for themselves, so they crafted a war between the Lion Manes and the humans, and eventually the humans got sick of this war and decided to leave Hawkworld, and they found Thanagar. They all moved to Thanagar and started living there, and that's how that was the origins of Thanagar and the Thanagarians. Then, eventually, a human from Thanagar returned to Hawkworld and became their queen, the current queen. And Carter is going to lead an army against the queen to try and kill her and Halfset so that they can free Hawkworld. Meanwhile, Shiara is fighting against her captives and is face to face with Halfset himself. And the queen behind him, who is wearing a golden mask, so this is clearly going to be a big reveal. Shiera asks this queen who she is, and also fights Hafset, because Hafset grabs a dagger and is like, you've fallen into my hands, and now I will finally kill you, and then I will kill Carter. She punches him in the face, and then the queen attacks her from behind, and while she's down, the queen reveals her identity, and it is Shiera's mother. This book is just full of plot twists and family reveals. Started off with Mera's sister, and now we got Shiera's mother. Jean-Jeans and Megan do a little Martian technique where they link souls with each other so that they can find this green Martian and their telepathy. And through their connection, Jean discovers that there is a black hole of telepathy coming from Star City, where the new forest recently grew. So he decides to fly there in order to find the source of this telepathy, hoping that it's the Martian. So I think we're about to get a Martian Manhunter Green Arrow team up. This is where things start to get really weird. Aquaman and Mera are swimming through the ocean when Boston and Dove just appear in front of them. Boston wanted the ring to send him to Green Lantern because maybe he would help, but instead it sent him here. So they have a little bit of a conversation with Aquaman and Mera where they say that they need to find somebody, and that maybe the kid, Jackson Hyde, who was in Aquaman's visions, is the person that they need to find. And Mera knows who he is, apparently. So we cut to Jackson, who is holding a bottle with a ship in it, sitting out front of his house. It's raining. He goes out into the rain, he lifts his arm up, his arm starts to glow, he starts to control the water of the rain, it starts swirling around him, his gills on his neck open up, and his eyes turn shining blue, so it's revealing that he is an Atlantean, and he starts going like, ah! And his dad's like, Jackson! And Jackson drops the ship, and he's like, Jackson, what are you doing? No one was around, Dad. Son, you know we can't take risks like this, you know that. Your mother and I don't want to lose you. You won't, Dad. Jackson, it's not that simple. We love you. I'm sorry, Dad. I've been feeling so pent up. I feel like I'm going to explode, but I won't do it again. Okay, son. Okay. But I think it's time. Time for what, Dad? Time for the truth. So I think Jackson has always been an Atlantean, but he's now just discovering that for himself and his powers, and that his parents are going to tell him what his true origin is. Meanwhile, Jean-Jeans heads to Star City Forest, and when he gets there, he suddenly starts losing control of his powers. His heat vision just comes out of his eyes, destroying his own hands. He's just like, ah! Meanwhile, at a shopping mall, or in a supermarket, the Green Martian killer is just walking around doing her shopping, and there's just dead bodies everywhere because she's killed everybody in the supermarket, but she's just casually walking through, just looking at items on the shelves and stuff. It's one of those really dark, it's one of those moments of some intense dark humor that I kind of love. At the same time, John is losing control of his powers. He turns into a Discord mod and starts just rampaging his way through Star City Forest, which is when Green Arrow shows up and is like, oh, I haven't seen a beast like you. This forest has all sorts of weird stuff in it. Guess I'll have to fight you. And he starts shooting arrows at Jean. And I think the whole reasoning behind this forest is supposed to be more of a like, oh, it's Robin. Like, it's Robin Hood. You know, like Robin Hood had Sherwood Forest. And so now Oliver Queen has Star City Forest. Like, I think they're really playing into the whole Robin Hood thing. And then things just get really weird where John throws Green Arrow aside, and then he goes up to a tree and he starts hugging the tree, like just straight up hugging it, absorbing the tree into his skin, like bits of the tree attaching to his head, showing him visions of him fighting the Green Martian on Mars, and that maybe starting life on Mars is actually a bad thing, and that this isn't the forest that he's supposed to be destroying. Meanwhile, the Green Martian in the supermarket sees a pile of chocos and just stares at it, which is a weird cutaway moment. I guess Green Martians are all drawn to chocos. And Oliver Queen, it says the thing that we're all thinking, what the hell is going on? Why are you doing this? Yeah, why are you doing this, John? Tell me, why are you doing this? I'm completely lost while reading this. And John is just like, I am John Jones. It's like, you are not John Jones. I am Josh Johnson. You are not Josh Johnson. I am a Black Lantern. You are not a Black Lantern. And then Green Arrow activates a trap, and these two giant logs come down and crush John in between them, which knocks him out. And then Ollie just drags him away and is like, wake up, John, wake up. And he's like, can you please let go of my arm so we can effect a new strategy? It seems like John has gotten his head together, and Ollie is like, you almost destroyed the entire forest. And he's like, I'm not going to destroy the forest anymore. I lost control of my powers. And Ollie explains to him that apparently whenever metahumans come into this forest, they either lose their powers or lose control of them, which explains what happened to John. And John says that the visions that he saw while under the influence of the white light told him that this is not the forest that he's supposed to destroy. He explains to Ollie that he needs to head back to Mars, while Ollie just goes back to living in the forest. Meanwhile, in Amnesty Bay, Black Manta approaches the grave of Thomas Curry, asking him where his son is, and he just picks up the grave and smashes it because he's such a hater. And then Sirens dudes show up and start attacking Black Manta, so he starts fighting back. He electrocutes this guy. These other members show up and start attacking him, and he just lasers them. One of them's like, the warnings about you were exaggerated, Surface Dweller. You cut easy. He gets lasered to death. And Black Manta's like, and you burn easy. You are fish. Fish come out of the water and they die. Enough. It's been a long time, David. Siren shows up and she's like, we're not here to restart our war. We need to work together. We need to find your son. And she has a water construct of Jackson's head. So plot twist, and yet another plot twist of like 4 or 5 plot twists so far. Jackson Hyde is the son of Black Manta. If you've seen Young Justice, you would already know this, but this is new for the comics. Martin Stein finally reveals the truth to Ronnie and Jason, telling them that they are the Big Bang itself. That back in the day, he was researching the Big Bang, he found out the truth behind the spark of the Big Bang, and using it, created the Matrix, which created Firestorm. And so now that Ronnie and Jason are fused together with the Matrix, they are as dangerous as the Big Bang, which is a very hard-hitting piece of information for them. Being told that you are as dangerous as the thing that can destroy the entire universe. Meanwhile, Aquaman and Mera are traveling through the ocean. Aquaman tells Mera to go and get help while he goes to find Jackson Hyde so that he can save him. Meanwhile, Jackson and his father have headed to New Mexico because Jackson's father promised to tell Jackson the truth about his origins. They arrive at a cottage, and when they get there, his father reveals to him this mysterious treasure chest that was given to him and his mother by this mysterious woman ages ago on a beach. This woman came out of the ocean holding Jackson as a baby and said, we are not fitting as parents for this child, so we are giving him to you, and then eventually we will come and grab him when the time is right. Basically loaning this kid to them. Jackson obviously gets overwhelmed and upset at this information, and his father says, I can't open up the chest. Apparently you're the only one that can open it. Jackson comes in contact with the chest, and his arm begins to light up, and that is when Black Manta shows up. And is like, you're going to have to protect your father from me. And he shoots a spear, which grabs the chest. And so Jackson and his father run into the car. He's like, we gotta go, we gotta get you out of here. They drive off, and Jackson's like, where do we go, Dad? And his dad is like, we're going to the water for the first time. And he tells Jackson to let his mom know that he loves her. So it's like the dad is prepared to just die. He careens the car off of the cliff. They go colliding with the water, and Black Manta jumps in after them. And Jackson is like, leave us alone! And he shoots water at Black Manta, sending him flying out of the water while he's holding his father. Black Manta is pissed at this because he doesn't like the fact that his son clearly has Atlantean powers. He's just like, unexpected, but interesting. He grabs his son's hand, and he breaks his arm. He's like, what did they do to you? Back off! Poof! And Jackson just sends out a massive field of water, which just hits Black Manta and sends him flying. He's like, Dad, we're getting out of here, right? And he gets sent flying out of the water by somebody. Somebody hits him with water. It's Siren. Siren used her water powers to send them flying. Jackson tells him to stay away from his father, and Black Manta's like, he is not your father. He is nothing but another man I've killed. And he shoots a spear at Jackson's father, but the spear is caught by Aquaman. Arthur shows up holding his trident. He's like, Aquaman, Manta, and he breaks the little spear and is ready to fight Black Manta for the first time in years, since Arthur died many years ago. Martin Stein reveals to Ronnie and Jason that if they don't stop arguing, they will explode and destroy the entire universe, and all that will be left is the two of them. And then the voice inside is like, it won't just be the two of you that's left, it'll also be me. And this black hand reaches out of them. These two black arms just come curling out of their body, and they explode, sending Martin Stein flying. And this thing, its voice is like Jason Rush, rage, love, hope, Ronnie Raymond, will, fear, avarice, and Professor Stein, compassion. And Black Lantern Firestorm, otherwise known as Deathstorm, has arrived and was inside of them the entire time. And he says the dumbest entrance line ever. He's like, this is gonna be so boss. Jeff Johns and Peter J. Tomasi being like, hello, fellow kids. Deathstorm stands in front of Martin Stein. This is actually the first time he officially calls himself Deathstorm, and he says that his goal is to make Jason and Ronnie hate each other so that he can cause the Big Bang and destroy everything, because he's a Black Lantern and he wants everything to die. Which makes sense. And one of the ways he's going to mess with them is by forcing Martin Stein to fuse with him. So Martin Stein becomes one with Deathstorm. He's like, a mind's a terrible thing to waste. Meanwhile, Aquaman fights Black Manta and tells Jackson to get his father to safety. Siren is there and she's like, where is Mera? Tell me! And then she just kind of gets pushed backwards by the fight and is just out of the issue for the is just gone for the rest of the issue. As always, Black Manta feels the need to bring up Arthur's son. He's like, you can't keep me away from that boy. After all, you know how important sons can be to their fathers. Deathstorm continues to spout a whole bunch of nonsense, trying to mess with Ronnie and Jason to get them to hate each other. He's like, remember when we killed Jason's girlfriend? That was great. And Jason's like, that wasn't Ronnie, that was you, Black Lantern Firestorm. And he's like, hey, it's Deathstorm, bro, call me that, that's my new name. Don't worry about Professor Stein, Ronnie. I brought him aboard the death train. Choo-choo! Damn, this is a good brain to pick through. Sure, the scientific stuff is about as interesting as watching Saved by the Bell reruns, but it's going to be useful. Almost as useful as the personal anecdotes. The professor always saw you like a son. That's why he's so disappointed in what you're doing now. It's like he's saying a mix of cringe things, but then actual interesting stuff as well. The perfect balance of cringe. Ronnie looks at Jason and he's like, whatever, come on Jason, you like rage, dude? They join hands and they transform into Firestorm. And he's like, how about the fury of Firestorm? Which is a reference to the title of the book that Firestorm used to star in. Aquaman and Black Manta continue their fight where Black Manta's like, remember when I gutted your baby? Those were wild times. Aquaman smashes him into a tree and Black Manta's like, what about Mera? Or is that over? If you're here, that means she finally told you the truth I've always known, about what our people did to me, about what they wanted to do to you. And I'm kind of wondering, oh, what did they do to Black Manta? I don't remember her mentioning any of that. He shoots a little spear at Aquaman, which hits him in the shoulder. He's like, you were the last to know. How sad. And he electrocutes Arthur by placing his palm on his chest. Meanwhile, Jason's father is all depressed. He's like, you got all of your academics and stuff from your mother. Meanwhile, me, I'm just a deadbeat dad. And he gets teleported away by Deathstorm, and to mess with Jason, Deathstorm forces his father to fuse with him as well. So now both Martin Stein and Jason's father are stuck inside Deathstorm, and then Deathstorm's like, "Follow me, kids, we're off on a tour." Jackson and his father see a truck coming, and Arthur hits Black Manta with his trident, sending Black Manta falling in front of the truck, which gives them enough time to get away from him. Arthur opens up the truck door and is like, "We need a ride, dude." They get into the truck, they drive off, and Black Manta's just kind of like left there like, "Oh crap, I missed him." Firestorm chases Deathstorm and tries to use a rope to catch him. Ruddy's just like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "I'm trying not to hurt Martin Stein or my dad." It's like, "Yeah, but don't embarrass us. Create something that's a little bit more interesting than that." They are teleported to where the White Lantern is, because Deathstorm wants to destroy it. He's like, "I can't pick it up, but I can infect it and destroy it." And then a voice is like, "No, you will not destroy the White Lantern. You will bring the White Lantern to me, and you will bring me an army. The 12 who live must be stopped. The new savior must never be chosen. The power of life will belong to me." You heard him, dudes. And then Deathstorm starts summoning Black Lanterns of all the people that were resurrected. So the Black Lanterns have returned. Meanwhile, Arthur makes Jackson open up the chest with his powers and reveals a map. And he's like, "This is going to show us where we need to go next." And John Johns is flying through space. He flies to Mars, and when he gets there, he finds that there is a massive forest on Mars, and the Black Lantern symbol is in the middle of it, made out of trees and stuff, which is not a good sign. It means that the Black Lanterns are probably on Mars. John arrives on Mars, where he finally comes face to face with Decay Duraz, the evil Martian that has been killing people, and she's got a lovely little date set up for them with some dinner, some chicken, some chocos as well. She knows what his favorite snack is, but unfortunately, she's a psychopath and a little bit of an incel, because she believes that they are the only two Martians left, so by default, they should be together, they should get married, they should have kids, all that kind of stuff. But Martian Manhunter knows his worth and is like, I'm worth more than being with a freaking psychopath. And if you weren't a psychopath, then maybe things would be different. She also points out that the black markings all over her skin are Martian symbols for anger and stuff like that. And she wants to put them on John's skin as well so that he can be like her. And he refuses. And so she grabs his coffin and throws it at him in anger. And he's like, "You dare stand here in my ancestral home and desecrate it with your fanatical ramblings in this place where I stood and watched my wife and child burn before my eyes as they pleaded with me to save them, to hold them in their final moments." Decay then reveals her origins to John, where she says that she was one of the Martians enlightened to the idea of being telepathically linked together. Because originally Martians were not telepathically linked, they were all separated, and she decided to go around and force people to be linked to each other. Not everybody survived. She tried to go to the Martian Council because some people were too hard to find, the people that were not connected with their minds, and she was like, "Oh, let's do a purge where we kill everybody that we can't connect together so that the only ones remaining are everybody that's telepathically linked." And they're like, "You're crazy. We're gonna send you away." And so they send her away to isolation. Eventually, people just stop seeing her altogether, and she spends 200 years not making contact with any Martians. She doesn't even know that the Martians are all dead now. And that's when she was teleported by Erdl to Earth. And then she became one with humanity because she kind of forgot what she was. She put on a human skin and then started thinking she was human, forgot that she was a Martian, but then John John's coming back is what sparked her memory, and that's when she killed the family and started going around killing and murdering people, and now she just wants to be with John, because he is a Martian, and she believes that their destiny is to be like the Adam and Eve of Mars, where they create Mars again, and they have babies, and they just create the whole population again. It's like, you have misconstrued that particular story, Decay. You are not Eve, you are the serpent. And he attacks her and he starts taking her down. He's like, your soul is repulsive. That's when the Justice League shows up and they start mocking John, saying that he's worthless and that he is evil for trying to bring back Mars, and that he can't be a Martian of both Earth and Mars, and that he will pick Mars over them eventually, and that him bringing back Mars without telling the Justice League is really bad. Obviously, this isn't the real Justice League. This is just a hallucination to mess with him. Meanwhile, Deathstorm and his new Black Lantern Corps are flying through the air with Firestorm in tow, and Ronnie is kind of doubting himself right now, and Jason tries to make him see that Martin Stein thinks of him as his son. Ronnie refuses to listen to Jason, even though Jason is glazing him right now, saying all the cool things that Ronnie has done, and the Matrix sees this as them arguing, and they start to feel a lot of pain, and Jason's like, okay, we gotta calm down, we can't argue, otherwise we'll cause an explosion. And then the mysterious voice talking to Deathstorm tells him to bring the White Lantern to it, and Martin Stein recognizes what this voice is, and I have a feeling I know whose voice this is as well. So Deathstorm and the Black Lanterns all disappear, and Firestorm is just like, where did they go? Meanwhile, Boston and Dove are in a library because they need to work together in order to find the person who is supposed to be the White Lantern. So they ask the Ring to help them find all of the light-based people that exist, and anyone who they thought was dead but was actually alive. And so they're going to go and talk to all these people and see which one of them is supposed to be the White Lantern. John manages to break through the hallucination of the Justice League, and he just goes at it with Decay. He grabs her, throws her into the ground. He's like, I will bring Mars back my way, not your way. Live, live, live. And he starts pounding the ground while the White Lantern energy appears in his eyes. He's like, live! And all this White Lantern energy goes everywhere, and all of the Martians on Mars come back to life, including his wife and daughter. He reunites with them. He's like, oh, I did it. I truly did it. It's like too good to be true. It's like, let me touch you. Are you real? Is it you, Mariah? Is it you, Kim? My beautiful darling? And he's just reuniting with his family. He's embracing them. He flies up into space with them. They're together, hugging. He's like, nothing else matters. You're back and everything is all right. We're together again. A family, as it was meant to be. I love you both to the very core of my soul. Not as much as we love you, John. And it's just Decay messing with his mind again. He never actually brought back his race. He seems to be under her influence. And on that cliffhanger is where we are going to leave things for this week. So that is the end of part 1 of Brightest Day. Next week we will continue with part 2. I have mixed feelings on Brightest Day so far. There are some really good moments in it, like this and the stuff with Deathstorm that I have been enjoying quite a lot. But much like Countdown and 52, there are storylines that I don't like as much, like the Hawk World storyline I don't really care about, and I also don't really care much for Boston's storyline, which is just him going around trying to find the White Lantern. It's just kind of like, whatever. The Black Manta storyline with Aquaman is interesting, because it's cool to see their rivalry be revived. Yeah, so far it seems like the stories just aren't connected enough. I hope that towards the end of the series, these stories really start to come together completely, because right now they just feel too separate, and we're just jumping around all over the place too much. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for the final part of Brightest Day. So have a good one.